Hello, I'm going to do an I Ching reading with my I Ching deck that I created myself today for you. I missed doing my reading last week because it's been a little wild closing out the school year, and I do work as a teacher. I am also in the process of working on an analysis video, which I haven't done in a while, but I feel one really brewing. I had this sort of wondering or question about the the numbers of the hexagrams and as a whole lifespan sort of concept. So I turned 40 this year. And so I think I'm going to do an analysis of 39 and 40 and kind of looking at maybe the shift that happens there and see if it helps bring me insight to my coming of the age of 40 this year. So that's something that I'm working on that I'm hoping to have done by the end of the month, um, maybe sooner, but definitely sometime early June. And then for now, I'll just do a quick calling. I'd like to call the spirit of the elements, our guides, guardians, and ancestors. Use me to bring a message to those who are watching today. So if you have a question lingering in yourself, a situation you're confronting, and you're just like, what your place is in that, or how you should, how your inner being should be approaching breathing or living into that situation, the I Ching is an excellent tool for giving you just the sort of advice that fits that sort of wondering. And so bring to mind what you're dealing with right now. What's the most pressing um, aspect of your life or question lingering in your mind? Bring that into you for now, and then we'll draw the cards. Okay, I'm gonna go away. This one. Ooh. Integrity and fortune. If you have any doubts about the innocence of your intentions, do not move forward. Possession of integrity is its own reward. Integrity is the pureness of will that comes when we sincerely pursue the virtues that we learn from observing nature. Harmonizing ourselves with the order of heaven awakens our spiritual perception and inner strength. Study and submit to the forces of nature that support healthy growth. This is hexagram number 25. The elements present here are heaven above, fire. And the image is a forest which has recently undergone a forest fire. So the kind of the little sproutings and regrowths that begin to happen following a forest fire. This one came to my top of my thoughts 2 years ago when I went on a camping trip in Colorado through, I think it was like Duck Creek or Goose Creek. I think it was Goose Creek. But going up that mountain, there was a massive forest fire that had happened somewhat recently. And like, could observe like just that vitality that is created, but also that utter destruction. But like the things that sustain, the things that remained, um, they had integrity. They had good fortune. Like there was a fortuitousness that they were still surviving, but also not just luck, like truly this persistent vitality, this life force that is gentle and just keeps going, that can withstand um, that sort of event, right? That sort of destruction. So maybe that brings you a meditation as you think about how this may apply to your situation that you have brought to your mind. Think about the element of fire um, and the element of heaven. I'll draw one more card to get a sense of the full picture, what we're changing and transitioning into. Well, I feel like we've gotten this one a lot. It just keeps coming back up. 38 separated. Maintain your sense of self while continuously seeking out unity. Sun and water are each their own element, but they serve a common outcome, which is producing life. Whatever your personal discovery challenge is, this hexagram is a reminder not to let yourself become completely enmeshed in it to the degree that you can no longer see how you can serve that which we are all a part of. And that personal discovery challenge is sort of like at the center of this text, and it's really the center of the idea of separated, which is individuality, um, finding that perfect balance or that navigating that back and forth give and take that is both being fully the individual you are meant to be, the true authentic self that you are meant to be, as well as being in union with the whole of nature, in union with the household or the community or um, partnership that you are also trying to exist within. And so this comes up a lot as a relationship hexagram for that reason, because that's a primary struggle in any relationship. So I have these two, and we'll get a sense of them as a whole. So separated has the sun over water as the two elements in it. And I'll show that to you as I bring them both back up here. So in this one, we have sun over water, and in this one, we have heaven over fire, which means in the lower part of the hexagram, sort of these early stages of transition, we have fire transitioning into water when there's a very specific kind of balance that those two do for each other. Fire evaporates water, water can extinguish fire. They balance each other in a very dramatic, destructive, sometimes it seems like there's a destructive quality, but whenever they're perfectly balanced, you may have imagine like a boiling pot of water or cooking. This sort of they neither is destroying the other. They are truly creating a new chemical process for something. And then with heaven transitioning into the sun, both are celestial elements. Um, Heaven has a raw primal quality to it, and the sun has like a very focused, clarifying beam of light, right? Sort of quality to it. So it sort of harnesses heaven and the sun are like brothers, I believe, is another hexagram where those two are in fellowship with each other. And so they interact with each other in that sort of way where the sun brings the intellect into this direct focus. Um, and it's very much about the intellect, where heaven is very much about creative energy, which can be unbridled sometimes. But there's a bridling that happens with the sun. And that's just an elemental reflection on these two. The changing lines we have line 2 changing and line 5 changing, 2 and 5. It seems like that's also a pattern in a lot of the readings I've had where those two are the ones that are changing, which is just bringing me to sit for a moment and question the nature of both 2 and 5 when it comes to these developmental progressions, where 2 is sort of like just having left a threshold, an initial broken the shell or stepped outside the door of the house, right? 2 is this, yeah, a first initiation, where 1 is sort of like the baby, the infant who hasn't quite reached initiation yet, who's still kind of percolating the seed, right? Who hasn't quite sprouted, where 2 might be the sprout. And five is the king, usually. A sort of attainment line or yeah, adepthood has been achieved when you get to five, which is very interesting that I keep getting those two. So let's look a little bit at integrity and fortune specifically, and then we will also get into those lines as I see fit once I get there. So, hexagram 25. Where are you? So there's a lot of names here. I have called it integrity and fortune in my deck, and I kind of explained the reasoning behind that. But we also have the unexpected, the unintentional, the symbol of freedom from error, integrity, without embroiling, pestilence, fidelity. This is all over the place. No error, freedom from vainness, instinctive goodness, the simple, correctness, subconscious. Whatever happens, keep calm and do what is right. DF hook. Now, this is just reading titles. These are on DeCorn's website. Um, he just has all the titles there for us to look at. I'm also going to look at some of the circles of meaning and Mothering Change. Mothering Change calls this one disentangling. Disentangling from negative emotions, lies, deceit, disorder, mania, and disequilibrium. Pure, spontaneous, unplanned, unexpected, freed from confusion, exorcism, purification. Hmm. Let's look at the advice to the superior individual. The ancient kings acted in time to cause all people and things to flourish. The ancient kings promoted flourishing appropriate to the time and nurtured myriad beings. The ancient kings cultivated virtue and used the appropriate time to nourish all beings. This is really consistent in the advice to the superior individual and really kind of like feels like it's all over the place when it comes to the title, which is always fun for me whenever I see one where I'm like, well, those titles just like, how do they fit together? Because that really is the question is it has a Chinese name that is constant, but many interpretations, and when they vary widely, it means that there's a complex meaning for that title. There's a really complex idea that maybe doesn't quite make it to English so well, or so easily. And so there's a lot of work to be done there. Things that I'm just drawing in myself that seem to at least connect to the image, which I think is also a helpful constant, is the image of the forest that has been taken by the fire. Um, what does Mothering Change say the image? One, the characters are the names of two demons, one that haunts abandoned tombs and one that spreads physical and psychic disease. They show a person exerting himself against an obstacle in vain, and a woman with a poisonous womb. That kind of fits with the title Pestilence, which was over here on Decorn's side, in the freedom from vainness versus the instinctive goodness. Those seem like two sides of the same idea. That there is a pestilence also reminds me of a forest fire, right? So that the sort of spreading of destruction that's just sort of like wildly out of control. This demon that is raiding the tomb, so to speak, potentially poisoning a womb. But that is that sort of unexpected spreading destruction idea. But then there's also that freedom from vainness or that um, instinctive goodness, which is essential to survive the destruction, which I think fits well with the forest idea. And then this idea of nurturing, right? Nourishing, the nurturing of the myriad of beings or nourishing of all beings, or the causing of all to flourish. Like those two ideas are also being held together, which I think the forest fire really sort of captures. But I think also the advice here is this holding on or that clinging to the nourishment that is created by, like literally a byproduct of the forest fire. Um, the allowing of the self to take in that nourishment that seems to be from a horrific event, potentially. That is I'm sorry for whoever is feeling the calling I feel right now. You're suffering um from that. And we had line 2 and line 5. But I'm going to look at some notes here just because of the complexity of this one. There is this guidance here that I wrote, and this is sort of my own distilling of having read many notes over time, but I'm actually quite years away from when I did that study at this point. But if you have doubts about the innocence of your intentions, do not move forward. And so that, if you feel like you don't have that instinctual goodness in you yet, um, then it's maybe wise to not try to move too quickly because things are quite dangerous, right? There's a spreading, a pestilence of um destruction sort of happening, and you don't want to be part of that. You don't want to be the cause of that. And so so finding your integrity, finding the true, virtuous, pure thing that you can cling to, that you can use to nourish you in this situation may be the work. If you're not feeling inherently good, right? Or that other title, that instinctive goodness is not feeling instinctive at the moment, then your work is to not move forward, but to find it, to find the seed or kernel of virtue that and pureness, of pure intention that you can use to guide you in this situation. Line 2. Let's read line 2. Finding you, line 2. Um, ooh, this feels very in line with the forest fire idea too. Um, if one does not count on the harvest while plowing, nor on the use of the ground while clearing it, it furthers one to undertake something. That's Wilhelm Baines. No tilling the crop, not clearing the plowland, by consequence harvesting, possessing directed going. Some of these are so weird to me. I mean, I guess these are sort of idiosyncrasies of Chinese that when they're brought to English literally just don't quite compute all together. Not plowing for the harvest, it is beneficial to go somewhere. Does not expect to reap as he plows the field, or if he does not expect to harvest in a ripe field when he cultivates a raw land, he will have the advantage of moving ahead. So there does seem to be this idea of there is this land that's maybe not one you can count on for harvesting right now. There's a field, right? Farming. Um, that it needs to be cleared. That forest fire may, intentional burning may need to be used to clear this land before it can ever yield a crop. And so we don't want to count um, on the crop at this moment. That's a sense that I'm getting. Um, and that there may be a beneficial um, stance or attitude or way of being to take in line two that is about just doing some of these works that are just they might feel pointless because they're so minuscule and long term in terms of their payoffs, right? Um, this sort of doing it for the sake of doing it because it will pay off in the end. You may be hungry right now, and the idea of planting a fruit tree may not seem all that gratifying in this moment when you're starving. Um, but it will eventually ripen and become fruit and prolific with fruit, right? And that's not the fruit you get today, but it is still something you do for the sake of doing it, for the long-term benefits. I'm going to read this other one. I get this idea of acting from your heart and not for personal gains, and not for specific outcomes, but just for clarity and authenticity. That there is a lot of um, weeds or brush or things that do need to be cleared away, a lot of old stuff that's in the way of planting a beneficial harvest. And in order to be liberated from this brush, you do have to just be clear and straightforward and um, kind of trust the baby steps of clearing that little by little. Um, trust the idea that the fire has a purpose that will be beneficial eventually. That controlled sort of burning off of those things can feel a little out of control. It can get out of control. Um, but there's a need for trusting in that. Hmm, this is what I get for line two. That idea of a very long off harvest. Um, preparing a field to plant. That's sort of the line two here. And this is potentially a past line for you. It's potentially work you've been right up in the thick of for a while now. It may be work that you're still kind of on the end of doing, or it may feel very securely in the past, depending on who you are watching this and what you're working with. Let's look at line five. You are feeling you're feeling pain from this process. This process is um not easy, not comfortable. It is painful, and feels like an affliction, right? And there's a spiritual pain there. And you should just take heart that um that it's going to be the important work that causes you um re, cause for celebration in the future. It will be something you are so grateful to have worked through and overcome um in in the near future. Let's read these lines. So, unexpected illness, but it will be best not to treat it. Use no medicine in an illness incurred through no fault of your own. It will pass of itself. For sickness without error, don't use medicine, there will be joy. The pestilence is illness. There is no medicine, but there is happiness. So this is the kind of what I meant by that spiritual illness is it may even feel like a real illness right now. May feel like you need medical help. And I'm not telling you because I'm not a doctor to not go to a doctor if you're um feeling some symptoms that feel like real symptoms, but maybe hold space in your heart for there to be an amount of spiritual healing that will emanate through and heal what feels like physical pain right now. That there is an interconnection there and that both sides are, you don't need medicine for that spiritual side. You can be working on that spiritual side right now, and the work you do there will be overall healing for you. Um, it, it may not be, you know, and I think there's a converse here where like, yes, go get treated by the medical doctors if you feel like you have an illness. Um, but that, sometimes we can keep throwing medicine and medicine and medicine and medicine at things. And the reason why the medicine that should be working isn't is because truly there is a spiritual aspect of the illness that needs to also be addressed, that is being avoided. And so I feel like I'm rambling and that this is maybe not my territory, but hopefully what I'm trying to say comes through that maybe there's a glimmer of hope for you to know that the pain that you're in can be addressed on a spiritual level to some extent, and that that is potentially coming soon. In fact, just a little bit of rest, potentially. Like there's a lot of burning off that happened already. Perhaps, go into that, finding the seed of that pure good intention mode with just rest. Just like let yourself be at rest enough that that glimmer of pure intention can actually come to you. Sometimes we push these things away through the busyness of our lives, through um, just overdoing things, right? Trying to do too much, and then the insight you actually needed to get past this doesn't have a space to travel through. It doesn't have any white space by which it can be seen and set apart and stand out, right? And so giving yourself a little bit of breathing room and white space may be the best advice for that particular aspect to emerge for you. I hope this was helpful. I feel like I've rambled long enough, so maybe I'll see you next week.